Hello and good evening. Welcome to the Smart Investing Show with your host, Alton Brooks, on the GBKM Network. Tonight, we're breaking down the diversity, equity, and inclusion walls in the construction industry. And joining us are some leaders at TCBN, the Toronto Community Benefits Network. Rosemary Powell, the Executive Director, and Varney Thailand, the Manager of Community Benefits Programs and Stakeholder Engagements. So let's go. Hello and good evening, and thank you for joining us tonight. We've got an exciting show for you this evening. It's all about the construction space. It's all about breaking down the walls of diversity, inclusiveness, and equity. And to join us tonight are two very good folks who can speak to that. One is the Executive Director of the Toronto Community Benefits Network. Her name is Rosemary Powell. She joins me this evening. As well as Varney Thailand, who's the Manager of Community Benefits Programs and Stakeholder Engagements at the TCBN. And this evening, they're both going to enlighten us on some of the things that they're working on, what the importance of the organization is, and how you, the viewer, can benefit, whether yourself or your children, from the programs that they run. So good evening, ladies. How are you tonight?
Good evening, Alton.
Fantastic.
Good evening, Alton. Doing well.
That is terrific, and you're both looking great. So thank you for joining me this evening.
Thank you for having us today.
So you can both expand a little bit on your roles at the TCBN and maybe tell us a little bit about what it is that your organization does. So just give us a few tidbits on what the role of the TCBN is and just a little bit about yourselves.
Varney, why don't you introduce yourself first, and then I'll introduce myself and talk a little bit about the background of the TCBN.
Thank you, Rosemary. So my name is Varney Thailand. I am the Manager of Community Benefits Programs and Stakeholder Engagement, and I also lead some of the diversity and inclusion initiatives here at TCBN. My role with nonprofit organizations started about 18 years ago in project management and program management. And I'm continuing to work in this passionate field that's, always very close to my heart, So I just enjoy working in this space, and especially in the construction industry. And right now, it's been a huge learning curve for me with TCBN, but it's been, a never-ending journey of learning and growing. So I'm happy to be here, and thank you for having us.
You're certainly welcome. Thank you for that.
So thank you, Alton. So my name is Rosemary Powell, and I am the Executive Director of the Toronto Community Benefits Network. And as a Black woman who has for most of her career worked in the community space, especially in the employment services space, I never thought that I would be here working in construction and having a fulfilling career in this role. So it is my pleasure to be here, and I really thank you for inviting me. So the TCBN is what we call a community labor coalition. A coalition meaning that we have united as community and labor together to deal with a really pressing issue that we have identified. And so within the construction industry, where government is spending billions of dollars on our taxpayer funds on infrastructure, Black and racialized peoples and indigenous peoples continue to be left out of this industry, and it's really unfortunate. Building ourselves in alignment with the industry to identify talent from communities and from these underrepresented groups to get into construction.
Right. Okay, terrific. So let me just ask you about some of the projects that you're working on, which includes the Eglinton and Finch West Transit projects, for instance. You know, this is fairly new where, at least I think in the last few years, where you're building in some of these benefits into some of these projects. How did you get these senior managers in charge of these projects to buy into this type of thing? And, it's taxpayer money, but at the same time, they're also looking at their budgets, and maybe this affects their budget in ways that they don't want it to. How were you able to convince them that this was a good idea?
Well, as community, we decided that we were going to organize. This is a lot of money coming out of our pockets that is going into infrastructure, investing in our local communities. And we saw that, many people were being left out. And so we connected as community with labor and formed a coalition. We're now 120 member organizations and groups from across the city of Toronto. We started out as 13 organizations that basically came together, and we incorporated, and we said we want to have Kensington Crosstown was an 8.5 youth to be able to tap into the local pool of talent, which, by the way, the industry has had a shortage of workers for the longest time. There's not a lot of there's a lot of retirement that's happening, and they need skilled workers. So at the end of the day, it was a win-win situation for all of us.
Now, speaking of retirements, people moving on, and new ones coming in, I'm always thinking about the youth factor. How does the youth factor play in for those that are watching who may be thinking about a future in construction? What are you doing for youth, or how can they benefit from an association with TCBN? So just give us some info on the youth angle.
Awesome. So I can speak to that.
Sure.
So TCBN, we do a lot of building of awareness within the community, right? So there are a lot of youth and underrepresented group where they do not know about the construction industry or how to get into the industry to begin with, right? So that is a huge gap that we see among youth. So we provide a lot of advocacy as well as awareness building programs where they're able to see, okay, if I can take this path, this is where I'm going to end up with. So construction trade is never considered a great pathway, in a career by many youth. It's because of lack of awareness. So we build awareness with that. And also there are many different trades. It's not just, you think about carpentry, right? There are so many different sub-trades within carpentry. So there are different trades that require different types of qualification and different types of skill sets where the youth can consider. We currently work with the TDSP and we build, different programs and projects with them to make sure that, the youth are educated in the different type of opportunities that are out there in the industry. They get to know about it so they can pursue a path away from college or away from, getting into a university, not to discourage them from getting into university, but the pay and the security in the job when they start off really young is like amazing, right? When you start off at 18, by the time you're like 25, you're making like probably 135K. So but when you graduate from a university, it's a far stretch for a new graduate. So it's like thinking differently and thinking construction as a viable and a successful and a prospect, so that they can, even parents can start thinking about it and letting the children know more about the industry.
Now, is it across the board? Is it across the board, the opportunities, or are there certain areas that have more demand than others? As far as a young person
Sometimes
coming
there
in.
are more demand on certain trade than the other, but there is demand across the industry in almost all trades on a regular basis. So it depends on what their interest is. If you're thinking about, if they are more interested in, physics and math, obviously, we will talk about, electricity, talk about network cabling, right? If they're more interested in building things, there is carpentry, there is formwork, there is heavy duty construction. So there's all kinds of viable opportunities out there. So on a regular basis, we are continuously building awareness and we are providing programs so that they get to build their skill set and they get to know more about the trade.
Now, I guess you're part of the solution in a sense because you have a great organization that does a lot of great work. And there's also many organizations who do lots of other things as well to try to equalize, the disadvantage faced by certain communities. Now, with so many different organizations having to do this type of work, so to speak, of equalizing the situation. Does the system need to get broken in order to get it fixed? Because there's a lot of hands that are trying to fix it by doing so many things, and it's a lot of an uphill battle at times. What are your thoughts on that when it comes to just the fight on a daily basis to try to get some of these equalizations done in so many different industries, whether it's education, healthcare, other situations, housing? There's fights on so many fronts just to get an equal opportunity within the system itself. What are your thoughts?
Well, for me, I wouldn't say that the system is broken. In fact, in Canada, we have one of the best construction industry out there. We
Nice.
have in Ontario a strong unionized construction industry that has an incredible apprenticeship program that trains and develops people to get through to journey person status and to get a Red Seal apprenticeship. And with that, you can basically go anywhere across the world to work. So I'm very proud of the construction industry here in Ontario. The issue with the industry is not necessarily that it needs to be fixed in those terms. What they have is an issue of diversity. The industry has consistently left out people of color and women and indigenous peoples. And, when you do the statistics, it really simply does not make sense, especially in the city of Toronto, where we see that more than 50% of the population is racialized.
Right.
How can you have a system that only has 1.2% of racialized people in a registered apprenticeship that will take them to a Red Seal career? Those are the kinds of things that we really need to break down. But sometimes in Canada, we have this kind of, polite
Right.
society where we don't see color, we don't see race, we want everybody to succeed, but we know it's not true by the very statistics
Right.
and the outcomes that we're seeing. And that's why, as a community, we need to step in and to take our place. And we need to demand from our government and demand, especially when they're going to be spending our taxpayer dollars, that they carve out a space for us. Because it's our money, it's our Canada, it's our infrastructure. We
For
own
sure.
this.
And I totally agree with you. And in speaking about that, this is for everybody. We do have to talk about some of the intimidation factors that does happen for whatever reason. Folks don't want others coming into this industry and taking advantage of some of the opportunities. We've seen, the pictures of the nooses that's been hanging from certain construction sites, etc. Tell us about any feedback you've received from, people of color or other racialized individuals about how they feel about that, how it affects them, and what are your thoughts on that type of thing happening?
I mean, it was devastating, and especially within we have the Next Gen Builders mentoring program. Barney is the manager for that program, and I can tell you that it resonated throughout the participants because this was also during COVID.
Right.
During the COVID pandemic, where people were worried about losing their jobs. And not only that, they're hearing that nooses were found on a construction site where they're supposed to be working, telling them that they're not welcome on the site, that they're not safe.
Yeah.
Construction is one of the most dangerous jobs that could be out there. You're working at heights. If somebody doesn't have your back, you will fall and die.
That's right.
You're working in confined space. You're working in the cold. You're working at early morning when you're so tired. The children might have been, not sleeping well, and you might not have slept well, and you're going out.
Are there
responder.
Are there any programs that, just from a mental health perspective, that's given to those that go through this type of thing?
Well, Barney can speak a little bit more to our Next Gen Builders mentoring program, where we provide a structured support for people in the program. But the industry also stepped up during that time because they recognize that this is not the culture that they want to see.
Right.
And so we had companies like Ellis Dunn and Acon and Danielle's and all the different unions. The Carpenters Union was just amazing. Actually, one of the people who actually put one of the nooses on a site was from the Carpenters.
Right.
And that person was gone probably the next day or two. And that was unprecedented because the industry doesn't want to see this, because more and more Black and racialized people are getting in, and they need these workers badly.
For
And they
sure.
don't want them to have that experience on site. And so they know they have a lot of work to do. They actually created what is called the Declaration for Inclusive Workplaces and Communities. And it's something that the City of Toronto collaborated with the industry to do. And basically they have declared a zero tolerance towards anti-Black racism and systemic racism. And we're going to be working with them over the next several years to really build out what that looks like in reality and how they can change the culture within the industry that is going to be more welcoming to people. But the Next Gen Builders Mentoring Program is something that we're really proud of. And Varney could speak a little bit more to the program.
Yeah. Let's hear a little bit about that, Varney.
So Next Gen Builders program is a unique mentoring program within the construction industry. So
this program is basically, whenever a client is looking for work, they get matched with an experienced construction worker or journey person or an apprentice.
Right.
So while they're looking for work, they get constructive skill set that they can develop, whether it is conflict resolution or building their confidence levels or any other skill set they need in order to navigate the apprenticeship pathway and their career pathway successfully. So the mentors not only help them to find employment, but also to retain employment. Some of the skills that they may need, when they go to the work site, it's day and night. When you are inside a classroom, you learn about all the skill set, and once you go there, it's just a different ball game altogether. So how do you navigate in such a workspace that's not so welcoming, right? How do you manage those spaces? It's like easy to kind of leave a job and walk out.
Right.
But what do you do in order to kind of sustain that employment? So our mentors provide guidance and support for almost 1 year. So it's a 1 year program that where a mentor is matched with a mentee and they provide the right guidance for them to be successful in their construction industry career pathway.
That is excellent. That is excellent. Now, just continuing on some of the things you work on there, Varney, the Building Diversity Awards is something that's new. So tell us about that. I believe you're the spearheading that. What exactly was that all about? And share some information with us.
It was an exciting journey. Last year was full of, learning and growth, especially, Building Diversity Award program was built, with industry leaders who came on about together within a diversity and leadership roundtable. In 2008 is when they decided, let's come up with a program in order to encourage diversity and inclusion within construction industry. So Building Diversity Awards program recognizes those contractors and unions and communities who work together and lead the way in increasing diversity and inclusion and opportunities for BIPOC communities across the country, basically. Nice. So this year was our inaugural event, and we had over 500 participants who took place, and it was a virtual event, of course, but TCBN has been providing a lot of awareness with regards to building diversity and inclusion within construction industry.
And will this be an annual award? It's an annual award?
It is an annual award, and we just started off this year. This was our inaugural year. So we did a lot of campaign for building awareness within the construction industry about the program and what we are trying to do. And from there, they were able to nominate themselves for the award, and the program was exceptionally successful. So Building Diversity Awards also, it also recognizes the role TCBN plays in helping contractors and unions to benefit from diversity. So we help them to learn more about it. And also it promotes the use of world-class best practices in order to increase diversity within the industry. Rosemary, would you like to add anything else?
No, essentially we thank Ellis Dunn, who came on as our first sponsor. The Carpenters Union was phenomenal as usual. We recognize Metrolinx for the Eglinton Crosstown project and the successful outcomes that they've shown to date in hiring over 300 people from our communities into those jobs in apprenticeships and professional administrative and technical jobs, as well as Crosslinks Transit Solutions, the general contractor, who basically was the first to implement a community benefits agreement, as well as the LIUNA 506, who really, as the union, was the one that really supported the most, Black and racialized people to get training and be hired onto the projects, as well as we recognized 2 individuals. One was a mentor, so the Next Gen Builders Mentor Award, and the next was a community benefits champion. I don't know if you've probably met Chris Campbell, but you really need to.
Yes.
He's from the Carpenters Union, and he's the president of our board of directors. Also, we're like, just pretty blessed to have him as a real champion for the work.
Shout out to Chris Campbell from the Carpenters Union. But speaking on some of the things you're talking about, the job creation, the great pay, etc., that is a terrific byproduct of these new projects. But another byproduct, though, is what we would call gentrification, where some of the folks who are currently where they're at may end up being displaced by this incoming freight train with all the newness and everything else being built. How are concerns like that being dealt with, and how do you still look after those who may be displaced by some of this great stuff that's happening?
Well, that's a central concern of community benefits. People who have been living in their neighborhood for years and tolerating the conditions within those neighborhoods and still, building a life and a livelihood in the community. They don't want to be displaced when development happens. And that's why community benefits negotiations process is really central to how we do inclusive development. How do we ensure that the local residents have a voice at the table, at the decision-making table, and how do we carve out specific targeted whether it be jobs or specific targeted contracts for for businesses, for local businesses, minority-owned businesses, social enterprise, so that they can remain in their communities and that they can also share in the prosperity that is being built. As part of community benefits agreements negotiations process, there are usually 5 things that we fight for. We want to see that there is apprenticeship, so training and development of people in construction. We want to see jobs in professional, administrative, and technical jobs, because not everybody wants to or can be a construction worker. We're talking about the engineers and the architects and the designers and, marketing and promotion and HR people who help to support the construction industry. As well as there is social procurement. So we want to make sure that we break down those contracts, because within construction, there is a multi-layered subcontracting that happens.
Right.
How do we make sure that we carve out those opportunities for the Black and racialized and businesses and for the social enterprises? And then there's the neighborhood and environmental improvements. Are there going to be negative, changes that are going to negatively impact the community? That we need to consult with them first. Think about Little Jamaica. Eglinton Crosstown, everybody wants transit. But at the end of the day, since the construction has started along Eglinton Crosstown, we know that about 50% of the small mom and pop businesses, the Little Jamaica community, has practically disappeared during that long construction phase.
Right.
How do we make sure that we center community's voice at the table and we push for them to look at the changes that are going to happen and what are the things they can put in place to mitigate that? And so basically this is about community coming together and fighting back and having a voice at the table. One of the things that was also happening in the Mount Dennis community is that Metrolinx wanted to basically break down one of the buildings that had remained, the Kodak building.
Right.
But the community wanted to stay. How do you kind of negotiate all of that? Well, through community benefits, we got Metrolinx to move the building out of the way. Imagine that. And once they finished digging their station underground, they were able to move the building back on top. And now that is one of the central focus of the area. So it's about inclusive development, making sure that the community has a voice at the table and they're a part of the decision-making process.
Excellent.
And it's about inclusive development.
Well, you're both doing terrific work. We're going to take a quick break, but we'll be right back with TCBN.
Do you want to be your own boss and make income or extra income with flexible schedule? Welcome to Keenan Courier. Keenan Courier works as a marketplace platform connecting customers who need something delivered with drivers that are willing to serve them. Courier with any vehicle, better trip allocation, and cash out your earnings whenever you want. Download our driver apps today to sign up.
Welcome back to the Smart Investing Show on the GBKM Network. We're here every Monday night from 9 to 9:30 p.m. with very interesting guests and topics. Make sure to join us every Monday night. Also check out our programming. You can also download our app, GBKM, on the iOS and or Android. And you can also reach us at www.gbkm.tv or .fm on your radio dial. This evening we've got the Toronto Community Benefits Network with us, with two of their great leaders, Rosemary Powell, and we've got Varney Tayalan. Welcome again, ladies. It's a pleasure having you, and you've been just giving us so much terrific information tonight. We appreciate that and appreciate you taking the time to come and talk to us this evening. My next question is just about newcomers. A lot of times we leave other parts of the world with great degrees and a great lifestyle, and we come here expecting the milk and honey, and sometimes it doesn't happen that way. What do you say to those who may be watching internationally right now or planning to come and make a life in Canada? How can they succeed, and how can they meander around some of the or detour around some of the obstacles that may be in their way, even though that they're a construction or trade professional?
Absolutely, I can speak to that, Alton. So as a newcomer, I myself have come to Canada 18 years ago. So I can definitely speak to this. You come with, sky high hopes, with all degrees, and you think that, okay, you can come in and land in a job. But sometimes you also have to look at transferable skills. And also you have to be a little bit more realistic when it comes to construction industry, especially in Canada. The regulations here and some of the way that the construction industry works, especially the unionized environment, is very much different from other international countries. So yes, you're most welcome with all of your transferable skills, but you also have to look at what is reality. Sometimes you may have to do a little bit of detour. You can have all of the experience and you can build your own contract company.
Right.
That is a viable opportunity as well. We have a program that especially caters to newcomers to Canada.
Really?
It's called Newcomers Pathways into Construction. We just got funded for that, and we launched the program in January. Yes,
excellent.
We have 22 candidates who are from both construction industry and also from professional administration and technical field who are going through the program. So they get to learn more about the Canadian construction environment.
Very
so that
nice.
is the key component of the program, because they need to learn and how can they use their skill set and transfer to something different or stay the same. And if you decide to stay the same, what are those skill sets that you need to build upon? So we assist them with referrals to other training supports, and we help them to find and navigate in their career pathway, providing them with job opportunities as they arise, right? Sometimes,
Excellent.
when you want to join a union, you don't need a degree. All you need is a grade 10 math and English. Sometimes you just need grade 12 math, English, and physics, and sometimes chemistry. So you may not need a degree to get into a union. But if you have those degrees and the experience, you can definitely think about some of the other transferable opportunities that are out there in the construction industry.
That is excellent. Now, let me just switch gears for just 1 second, because, part of your work is trying to build up other agencies and organizations. And just recently, earlier this year, the Afro-Canadian Contractors Association got started, and they've been pushing forward, and I know you've probably been partnering with them. Tell us a little bit about how that's been working out and how they're coming along.
I am so incredibly proud of the Black contractor community who came together and organized and established for themselves an association that will basically identify all the Black contractors that are out there and bring them under one umbrella. And when you're together, you are so much stronger. And through community benefits, we are negotiating those social procurement opportunities. But you can negotiate all you want, but if you don't have the capacity and you don't have the contractors to take on those opportunities when you push for that, well, then it makes you have egg on your face, right? Because then it means that, okay, so we made the opportunity available. For example, at York University, $600,000 was carved out for social procurement. Did we have the Black community contractors to be able to get in there and to make a bid and to do what it takes to actually build that project, we want to see more and more and more of that happen. And so that's why I'm incredibly proud of the leaders within the Afro-Canadian Contractors Association for taking this mighty first step forward and organizing. And we're going to see that, you know, that when we build Black, we're building with excellence.
That is so terrific. You know, you're both and the organization doing a lot of terrific work, but just tell me, outside of just what you do every day, what brings you the most happiness? What makes you smile?
Well, for me, I was at the center just this Saturday building up a pool table with the young people who came in and helped out. So basically, we're forming a community here. Before, they felt that they were alone. There wasn't a lot of them inside of the different unions or within the construction industry, but now we're finding each other. We're learning and building those support systems and networks that we need in order to be successful. And for me, that is just absolutely beautiful.
Terrific. And for you, Varney?
I think for me, seeing the candidates, you know, come in with so less hope, and then end of the program, you see them like soaring with, you know, having that confidence, and they know that there is, you know, there's potential out there. They can really make it happen. And when I see the numbers into the union, you know, rise up, that's like a win-win for our programs team. So on a regular basis, we are continuously working to make sure that our candidates are well equipped and educated, and they are ready to go into the unions, and also to the, in other professional, you know, administration and technical fields. So I think for me, it's getting them ready and giving them that hope and giving them that confidence to take their next step in their life. I think that's what puts a smile on me.
That is excellent. My last question for you both tonight is, where can people go to find out information on the TCBN, and how can they reach out to you if they want more information?
Let's do it together, Varney. www.communitybenefits.ca.
That was excellent. That was excellent. All right, Varney and Rosemary, thank you both for joining me this evening. It was a terrific conversation. We learned quite a lot, and if you're a viewer that's watching, the trades, construction, it's an excellent place to be. Your children can also make a great living there, so please make sure you look into all of the opportunities that are available in this space. The TCBN is there to help you, and they provided details on how you can reach out to them, so feel free to do that. Thank you for joining us this evening. Have a pleasant week, and we'll see you next Monday night.
GBKM TV, the station with a vision. GBKM TV, the station with a difference now. Slim Flex said so. Big up Ghana, up. GBK.
Do you want to be your own boss and make income or extra income with flexible schedule? Welcome to Keenan Courier. Keenan Courier works as a marketplace platform connecting customers who need something delivered with drivers that are willing to serve them. Courier with any vehicle, better trip allocation, and cash out your earnings whenever you want. Download our driver app